right, welcome y'all. My name is Liz. I'm one of the owners of Expand Yoga here in Tacoma, Washington, and it's March 22nd, and I'd like to offer you some joint warm-ups. So if you're just wanting to do some basic joint work where you want to kind of check in with your body, if you're just waking up in the morning and want something to do early in the day to kind of see how you're feeling, if you're about to move into a more vigorous practice but want to kind of check in with your body first, I think these are awesome for that. We start with the ankles. So one foot steps forward, the other one goes back behind you, and you make circles with your heel all the way around, let's say 10 times one way. So you're rolling over the toenail side and then back to the big toe side. And I oftentimes notice it more in my hip actually than my ankle. So you're just going around in circles one direction and then switching about 10 times the other way. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The standing leg also has to stabilize while you do it. And then switch out the feet. The foot that's doing the circles goes backwards a little bit behind the standing leg. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then switching directions. All right, so even though you start with the ankles, we move all the way up to the neck next. So feet can be together or slightly separated. If it's one of your first times doing it, definitely separate them a little bit because this might make you a little bit dizzy. So better to have good ground beneath your feet. There are 2 ways of doing it that I know of. The easiest way is to just imagine your nose going around a clock. So your nose could start down at 6 and move all the way to 9, up to noon, down to 3. Maybe your clock is going the other way, either way. And you go about, let's say, 8 times one way. And you can close your eyes or keep your eyes open. If you feel dizzy, it's worth it to try the other option. And once you've gone about 8 times one way, get to switch ways, go the other way. I think it's pretty normal to feel or hear almost like sand in your neck or in the back of your head. There should be really no pain with any of these. So if anything hurts, you want to back away. So let's say if it hurt when I went here, I just make it less. I just make the circle a little bit smaller. Skip that spot. And the more specific way to do this one is to, instead of just making a circle, take your chin. Imagine tracing it to your collarbone, then tip your ear to your shoulder. You get a really long stretch the opposite side, this one. And then nose goes up and around and over. And then again, ear to shoulder, chin to collarbone, and back to the clavicular notch area. All right, so to go the other direction, it would be chin to collarbone, ear tips to shoulder, nose goes around the top of the clock, no pain anywhere, right? Skip it if there's pain, right? Ear to shoulder, chin to collarbone, and then back to the clavicular little notch right there. So especially on the closing side, if you feel like there's pain, that's what you want to skip. The long side, you might feel stretch. That's great. Obviously, no pain on that side either, but really the closing angle pinch is what you're trying to skip over if it is feeling like too much. Next is the shoulders. So backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. I love this one. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then forwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wrists, elbows in line with shoulders, palms together. Roll the wrists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, the other direction. And then one that I like, but that isn't necessarily part of the series, is rolling the backs of your wrist, right? So just pressing the back of your palms against one another, rolling through, kind of give a nice stretch in the other way. Go both ways. And once you've got your wrists, there's a twist through your ribs. So one hand is going to hit the spot right between your pec and your shoulder, and the other hand gets to pop you on your back, right between your low ribs and the top of your pelvis, right? So you get to swing. And these are really nice because they're really gentle, but they kind of get you moving a little bit. They're kind of fun. You can do them almost anywhere. You can use them with, you can teach them to friends and family who might have no interest in yoga or even in movement in general. They're so they make so much sense, right? They're just so kind of fun and easy to do that, you can sometimes trick people into practicing a little bit, right? You can trick yourself, really. Part of the goal is to trick yourself into practicing a little bit. So this next one is for the hips, if you didn't notice, right? So your pelvis gets to go around a clock. This one's a little more like a hula than any of the other ones, I guess. You can make it big, like I'm kind of making it kind of big right now. I like it like that, but you can make it smaller also. So just even thinking like there's a string with a weight on the end or a plumb bob, and you're just kind of moving around really gently around your hips. Trying to let your hips be really watery. Right? Maybe even your knees could soften a little bit. In both directions about 8 times. All right, and then from the hips, moving down to the knees, feet come together. Try to keep the soles of your feet flat. Hands to your knees, circling round for 1, 2, 3. Obviously no pain, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The last one, just 5, rolling up. Right, so thinking of your spine almost like just a ribbon coming up, and your feet about hips width distance or so, head really relaxed, shoulders relaxed, feet grounded, legs strong, low belly draws in, and then rolling up, head comes up last, shoulders roll back. Right, so that was 1. We'll do 5. You can close your eyes. I think it's easiest to inhale on the way up. All right, so let's say you did all that and you want to cut it right here. Awesome, this is a great spot to stop. You could do that before you did anything else or just as a way of getting warmed up in the morning. Let's say you wanted to keep going a little bit. My next place that I would personally go is into tabletop position. So hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, tops of your feet pressing down into the ground, and then letting your spine round, pressing the floor down, pressing your knees and feet down. And then inhaling as you lift and lengthen. Once you've done a few cat-cow tilts and you start to feel like your spine is starting to get a little bit warm, or at least you're really aware of kind of how it's moving, I really like moving into some hip circles. So hip circles are different than moving your entire body round. I've started to see some people just kind of going round their mat, but then you don't have to move your pelvis and hips at all. And for me personally, that's where I kind of get the most benefit from this. So hips moving around like you're going around the clock, just like you did with your head at the beginning, kind of letting your nose trace the clock. You're doing the same thing with your pelvis here, asking it to go in circles round clockwise a few times, counterclockwise a few times. And your gaze is forward. Right? Weight is nice and even through your hands, so you're not leaning into the outer heel of your palm. That'll tend to create wrist issues. I think I'm getting both ways, right? Maybe I started going, okay, well, you want to get both directions. And then there's lots you can do from tabletop position, right? So many great things you can do. One of my favorites these days has been moving into gate pose. So for gate, a nice little warm-up actually before you do gate is press the tops of your feet down, lift your knees up off the ground, draw your low belly and press the floor down. So it really gets your core kind of turning on a little bit, your transverse abdominals firing, upper back broad, stomach muscles draw in, and you can come on back down. To move into gate, it's just from tabletop, right? You could make sure your knees are about hips width distance. Take one leg, stretch it back behind you, opposite arm out long in front. Right, staying here is awesome. Spinal balancing, low belly, trying to lift up and in towards the ceiling a little bit. Okay, and then take your arm out to the side. Right, bring your leg around to the side. You could try to hold this for a while. This is sometimes, quite interesting, I should say, I guess challenging in the outer hip. Then the sole of the foot can come down to the ground. Hand can come out. So everything's, oh, there it goes. Everything's about lined up. I'm going to move this knee out just a little bit. So the foot, the knee, the hand are along the same plane. You can be on your fingertips. You could use a block over here or have your hand on a book or something, or your hand flat on the ground. And then taking the top arm up and over, and it gives you a really nice long line. You're looking for a line from your ankle bone up to your hip, and then from your hip all the way out to your fingertips. So in some ways it's similar to standing half moon in the original Hot or Bikram class, but it's a lot more supported, right? But you're looking for that really long stretch, your side seam. The armpit rotates towards the heart, palm towards your face. You can breathe down your side. You can also take your top hand and bring it behind your head, fold your elbow in, and try lifting up, looking up, opening your chest up. And you can try crossing it in, drawing your elbow towards your knee. Think of it contracting your abdominal muscles a bit. And the next time you open up, reach your fingertips towards the ceiling. Contract your abdominal muscles and your inner thigh a little bit. And then imagine someone takes you by your fingertips and they just lift you up to a T. Interlace your hands behind your back, open your chest. Nice, and then bring your hands to your hips, right? And just let your hips, your pelvis really fold forward. Bring your hands down to the ground, or maybe your elbows down. I'm gonna bring the knee out just a little bit wider, so I can bring my elbows down to the mat and get a nice line through the inside of my right thigh. And I like this a lot because I am horrible at center splits, right? But here I get to isolate just one leg, which makes it a little bit easier. And there's a lot of room to play, right? I can swing back a lot, I can go forward a lot. I can turn my foot in different directions. I can flex it up, right? So just depending on where you need the intensity, right, you can take a lot of different angles to give that to yourself. Okay, then I'm gonna press the floor away, right? Just gently draw the right knee, or my right knee, maybe your left knee back on in, underneath. Right, let my hips move around a little bit. I notice the right side feels different than the left. And from this tabletop position, right, pressing the floor away, hollowing out the low belly a little bit. So I'm supporting my low back with my transverse abdominals, right, and kind of using some stability in the front to really support the back. I bring the arm out, my leg out, right, reaching long. There's an imaginary diagonal from my fingertips out through my hip, from my hip to my toes. And then arm comes out wide, right leg comes around to the side, right, trying to hold it for a moment. Right foot comes down to the ground, hand comes out wide. I'm gonna move my knee out just a little bit more. I make sure I have some good foundation underneath me. Right, again, fingertips can be on, the fingertips or palm or on a block. And then the left arm, my left arm, maybe your right, comes over the top. I'm going to take my hand behind my head, elbow towards the face, and then inhaling, lifting up. Exhaling, curling in. Just a few times. Next time I come on up, I'm going to reach your fingertips up towards the ceiling, press down through the bottom knee, abdominal muscles draw in, inner thigh turns on, and then slowly rising up. Hands to iliacs. Oh, give yourself an inhale. Exhaling, interlace your fingers. Try the way you didn't do it last time. And inhale, open your chest up. Exhaling, hands can come back to the top of the pelvis or the ASIS points, and then folding back forward. Right, elbows can come down to the ground. You can move your knees, or knee and foot wide apart if you want. And you can keep the sole of your foot flat. If it works better for you, you could flex it towards the ceiling. For me, I feel it a lot more intensely if I keep my foot flat on the ground. So I'm really pressing down into the sole of that foot, trying to lift up through the inner thigh. And I can rock forward. I can draw my hips back. I can come deeper by bringing this knee out wider. So if center splits are easy for you, you can totally bring that knee right out to the side, I think, anyway. Then to come on up, just palms underneath your shoulders. Right, softly bring your knee back on in underneath your hips. Right, give yourself some time to move your hips round, reintegrate maybe some cat-cow tilts. And maybe again pressing your feet down and lifting your knees up off the ground, really pressing through your shoulders. Right, breathing into your back. So if you're just gonna kind of warm yourself up, that would give you a really good way to start to feel out, what's moving well, what might need a little extra tension, places that you might want to kind of just give yourself some time to work on. That would be like a really nice way to kind of get moving for the day, I think. It gives you also a lot of length through your side body and through the inside lines of our legs, which is a little bit less common to get than just the regular forward and back stuff. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that it helps you set your day off on a good foot. Thanks for joining. Hope to see you soon.